Hi everyone, it's Josh here. Just a quick one. So today I thought it'd make a good video if we go and take a bit of a drive and look around my warehouses. And we've got to be a bit careful how we do this because we've got two warehouses and we've got some offices. It's not fair for me to start invading the privacy of my employees, so what we're going to do is we might have to get there. There's some people there will use old photos. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you around the setup of them so you can see goods in, goods out, prep zones. On top of that, we're going to go back to my office and we're just going to go over what we do for every single bit of it. But it's a bit of a boring day today. It's 2 p.m. and I was up last night dealing with the LA office. So I didn't really sleep till about 3 a.m, which is why we're having a later start today. But we're going to do that, and then we're going to come back. We're going to go over the supply chain. We're going to talk about how you can make your own FBA business much more efficient. So guys, I'm just driving, but I thought I'd fill you in really on where we're going. We're going to what is my first warehouse. So I have two separate warehouses. One warehouse is optimized for dealing with big items. We call them oversized items. So what that is, it's a larger item that tends to be shipped out on a pallet or a container. Then we have a separate warehouse that does much smaller items. So for example, your iPhone case size, could fit in a normal envelope size. The reason for that is, in the UK, rent is much cheaper on buildings that don't have full pallet access. So what we do is we have two separate warehouses. We have one warehouse just full pallet access, which is very expensive per square foot. It's about 3 times the rate of the other one. Then we have another one which is in a place in a mill, which is really, really cheap, but you can only carry things in a good lift, so it's no good for sending in tons and tons of stock. Right, sorry everyone. The day just ended up going absolutely insane. Just a couple of minutes after I filmed that bit in the car, I got a call and I had to go to another company I'm involved in. We had a deal begin to fall through. But as a result, I'm just going to show you on my computer. I've got some photos of the warehouses. We're going to go through them. On top of that, we're going to talk about my opinions of actually when you should move into a warehouse, what kind of warehouse you need, and why I choose to have two separate warehouses instead of just one. I'm also a big champion of self-storage facilities to run businesses out when you're just starting. And the big reason for that is that they allow a 24-hour, or essentially concierge service, where they will unload and load pallets on your behalf. So you don't have to be in all day waiting for a truck to arrive. Right guys, apologies for this, but we have to do this on a PowerPoint just to make it simple really. So we're going to talk about my warehouse and supply chain logistics setup that I have myself. So my supply chain is very simple. I have two warehouses. One warehouse is in a mill. This is about 1,500 square foot and costs £300 a month. That is extremely cheap rent for the building itself, which is why we haven't given it up, even though the space is less than ideal for our use. The reason for this is it's in a mill. The floor's mushy, the roof's not very good, it's hard to insure, and more importantly, there's no pallet access. That means we cannot easily get goods in and out of the building. The second one I have is a freestanding building. This is slightly smaller, 1,200 square feet. However, it has racking, and this makes a massive difference because half the unit is racked, which allows you to stack 3 pallets on top of each other. This means the space actually used to store the same amount of goods is significantly reduced, so we can actually store more in a smaller building. But this is £900 a month, which is about market rate for a building of this size in the city central area we are in. With regards to offices, I have my home office. I work by myself to actually do the supply chain logistics setup. We have an American office which deals with the US supply chain. I also have another business interest which we also utilise for that. Then on top of that we have virtual assistants. Now I'm not the biggest fan of virtual assistants, but they do have their place and time. They're just not quite everything they're made out to be. We'll touch on that in a later video. As a general rule of thumb, you should look to spend about 1% of your revenue on rent, and no more. So this here is the photo of the mill. As you can see, it's falling apart, there's massive spots everywhere of water. It's not a pleasant building to work in at all, but it's very cheap and it's easy location, and the area it's in means it's quite easy to hire people to work in it. So this is the mill, how I've got it set up. So you've got the door here and you've got the packing bench in the centre. At the bottom you've got the box storage. We use custom sized boxes, and the reason we do that is to optimise space on containers. We'll have another video on how you can save on storage, how you can save on items like that. We have something in the course, but I'll make a video on it as well. We have bubble wrap storage as well as goods in and goods out. So as you can see, a lot of the space is actually taken up just by this bubble wrap storage and box storage. The big issue with this is, if you need to get products in from the door to goods in, you interrupt the packing bench. It means that the operation can't be fluid. The operation has to stop for any movement of products. So what do we use it for? We use it for small items. A small item for us is about an item you get 600 to 700 per pallet. The advantage are it's a cheap area, we pay bugger all rent for that. The disadvantage is loading and unloading is done on a road. Because it doesn't have a pallet entrance, we actually have to physically take items outside, stack them on a pallet. That could be a nightmare if it's raining, snowy, there's a no-show by the pallet delivery company. Then you've got to go and haul it all inside, which is about 25 metres each way, which is quite exhausting if you're doing 3 or 4 pallets on a given day. Now, I apologise for the bad photo, we've just got a photo from when we're moving in here. This is our freestanding warehouse, and it's a free-built structure, and I'm going to talk you through why it's significant. If you look at the photo, you can actually see the racking I was talking about, and how it allows you to much more efficiently store product. The big difference you'll notice with this one is it's much more logical in setup. There's very little crossover. So at the top, we've got the packing bench. We've also got the computer next to it. At the bottom, we've got the 3 levels of pallet racking. This here is really key. We can store all the boxes, all the bubble wrap on that racking. On top of that, we can also put our stock in and stock out. When we're buying from Amazon, we might have a supply deliver late, deliver early, and we have to hold stock so we can consolidate it later. Because we can rack it, we can quite simply put it in and out of sight. We can then move the pallets we want to work out into our temporary goods in and out area where they can be prepared. And what's important here is, because there's a pallet access through the big door, we have the ability to actually build straight onto pallets. So rather than putting the boxes out there, then having to put the boxes, carry them out individually, then build them on the road, we can actually build them inside. All this cuts down on labour. And with the rate labour is increasing in prices, in the UK, for a minimum wage position, we're now at about $12 US an hour. It makes financial sense now to make your operation as efficient as possible. So advantage are, the racking means you can store a lot more. The disadvantage is for the small size we actually have, we're paying a lot for it. And another advantage that kind of makes up for that rent is pallets built inside saves wasting hours on employees. So what are my tips? My number one tip is if you're starting out, use your garage, or if you need more space, use a self-storage facility. The reason for this is they will allow you to store items in there, obviously, but more importantly, they will unload and load your pallets on your behalf. So you can come on a Friday, move everything up to your room, pack it over the weekend, then ship it out on the Monday. This is really, it sounds so simple, but it's massively important because it means you don't have to sit around all day waiting for products to be delivered. My personal rule of thumb is no more than 1% of revenue should go on rent. You'll probably find this is quite low. If you're doing £1 million a year, that gives you a budget of about £800 a month. I mean, myself, I'm slightly over that amount, but we will be consolidating our warehouse into a bigger one at some point and reducing that. But it's a good rule of thumb. It's very easy to get tempted by nice facilities. Hell, I've done it myself. Everyone wants that fancy office, but it just doesn't make sense financially. Another thing I always say is avoid product-based racking. I do not like racking other than pallet racking. I just find it inefficient, it gets in the way, and because you're not individually picking items, there's no point in it. Fourth, more space is always better. And what I mean by that is if you spread out an operation, your employees can work quicker, they can move things around, they won't trip up over themselves, and it just increases the speed that they can work out. Finally, if you're shipping pallets, make sure you get a building which has a roller shutter which is pallet wide on it. This will save you so much aggravation, and I would honestly pay a couple of £100 a month, even if I was only doing 2 or 3 pallets a month for this facility, because it saves you so much time. But that's it for this. We're going to have a couple more tips, and we're going to do a bit more of a focus on how you can do some little tricks to actually speed up your operation a bit more. But thank you.